Well, good morning, everyone. I'm Jan Erickson from Stepping Aside, and welcome to Somewhat Daily Tarot and Rune for the 31st day of October, Halloween 2019. Well, I have to say I've already started this once, and I don't know, something's going on with my throat, and so rather than start the reading all over again, I'm just going to go with what I have here because I like it. It's a nice reading. I'm going to just quickly go over, before I lose my voice again, I'm just going to quickly go over, and I mean, I've even drawn the rune. So, I mean, I got that far. So, anyhow, hopefully I can get through this. I'm going to drink my tea along the way. I talked about, well, anyway, I'll just start over. Welcome to Somewhat Daily Tarot and Rune. And again, we're just not going to, we're going to dispense with our normal way of doing things. I've already done this once, and I've got the three cards out, and I like them. And I really feel like I was just going to go ahead and whenever I start, I usually start completely over if I have to restart. And so I'm just not going to do that, though, because I feel drawn to this particular reading. So I'm just going to leave it as it is. But anyway, let's go over quickly while I still have a voice, let's go over quickly what the astrology is for today. We've got the sun in the 11th house of Scorpio. Passionate, intense experiences, avoid drama, and deceptive behavior in relationships. 11th house is about relationships. So there's a semi-square with Jupiter to reevaluate goals. That's going to probably align with what? The second house, Saturn in the second house, taking stock and reevaluating important areas in our lives. We might be reaping the benefit of some money mismanagement. So I don't know. Got to look at that. Mars is still in Libra in the 10th house again. So watch your tone at work. Self-discipline. There's a square Mars has with Saturn. So self-discipline is in order. Avoid controlling. There's also a square with Pluto as well. With Mars. And so feelings of anger may arise, and that's where you're going to need to kind of control your mouth a little today. Don't take the bait. Mercury in the 12th house of Scorpio, intense communication is favored, so definitely. But a conjunct with Venus allows communication to flow, so that may save you there. Again, a conjunct with the ascendant, which is also in Scorpio, powerful, secretive, but could be having to do with something that's powerful and secretive, but it suggests a major transition may occur. So be aware and be ready for that. The moon is in Sagittarius in the first house. Did I already say that? I don't think so. So a day for new experiences and adventure and attention also, though, to health and well-being in case something, just check in with yourself and see if something's going on. Conjunct Jupiter with the moon, let's see, suggests planning and trying something new. So maybe exploring new activities or something. But with Jupiter, you're talking something that's fun. So, So what I had here today, let's go ahead and get going on the reading before I lose my voice. Started out with the Two of Cups. I'll just show them to you so that you know what they are. And I believe that I even move things around. I put the Chariot. I think I drew the Chariot last, but I'm going to put that second. We're going to have a little bit of a yod here today with the Chariot as the focal point. I don't think there's one in the skies currently, but it was so cool when I got to do that one week where I could make the cards in the same position and it aligned with the yod in the sky. I don't know. That was really interesting. So that's why I got the idea to do it. I just had noticed that there was one there, and then when I did the reading, it sort of aligned with it. It was weird. But anyway, here we have the Six of Pentacles, which is about shared abundance. Now, when we talk about the Chariot, we're talking about balance, and we're talking about allowing versus control, knowing when to surrender and when to take control. And so that's going to be the theme of the reading here today. Sometimes it's like when you're trying to figure out if something's worth it or not. And you have to decide today whether something's going to be worth it or not. To either just allow the situation to just occur as it is and to just drop resistance and just observe and just be part of the experience without interacting with it, or trying to interfere with the flow of it, I should say. It's not that if you're in the flow, you're not interacting, because you are, because you're in the flow. So that's part of your interaction. You're just not trying to disturb it in any way. Or are you going to take the bull by the horns and try to, you know, interject your own energy into the whole experience? With the two, we're looking at a balance here that's a balanced polarity. We're looking at a couple that is likely coming into intentional harmony with one another, perhaps in a marriage, or perhaps they're just coming back together after being absent from one another. Perhaps their relationship was strained. You see the caduceus above, you see the winged lion. It denotes healing, the fire element, if you will. This is the suit of cups, so it's about our emotions, but you see the earth element contained within it as well. Also intellect, air is there. But basically, this is a card of healing polarity or relationships, either within the self, where you're trying to bring, your receptive and projective sides of self into a little bit better balance. Sometimes we get ahead of ourselves and maybe we act without thinking, allowing the projective side to run amok a little bit without, the receptive presence saying, excuse me, come back. Let's think about this a little bit. So there you have implied the sense of allowing and versus taking control contained within the two. So it mirrors the 7. I believe overall we have a 6 energy here. So we're talking higher self-influence. And if the chariot is indeed going to control this whole thing, then this whole reading, then basically, we're allowing spirit to control the whole process today. Here we have shared abundance. And in this expression, he's offering money more than he has. He doesn't, or more than he needs. He doesn't need it. So he's going to share that abundance with others who perhaps don't have the same status or ability to make their way. But it doesn't have to be money. It is in this card, but it doesn't have to be. It could be your time. It could be your skill set. That I really started coughing when I said the word skill set. So at least I got through it this time, but you could be sharing your time, your whatever you know how to do with people, helping them out. Pentacles is about all of that. It's not simply about money. One thing I mentioned, when you're talking about the 7 cosmic rays of existence, the 4th ray is harmony through conflict, probably what's active right now, probably has the strongest presence. I haven't looked at today's chart yet because I haven't done the correspondences yet for today and the astrological information, but I'm going to do that after I do this, and that'll go up. But I'll bet you that the 4th ray has been strongest lately. We just got out of Libra, so it makes sense, But the idea that, the 4th ray is harmony through conflict, and what that means is that you have the ability to bring things to a rest so that you can, find the harmony within it. And that's really what the chariot is asking us to do, to drop resistance and to simply allow. We see the influence of spirit above in the fabric that adorns the top of and the back of the chariot. We see the Merkabahs everywhere. We see the large, brilliant star or sun, however you want to look at it. You see the radiance coming from it, so it could be also a star. You see the moons, the crescent moons on his shoulders there. You see the cube on his breastplate for structure. Again, you see the winged sun over here. Similar to our winged lion over there. So in a sense, and you've got the two lions down below representing dark and light. So in a sense, you've got the same type of issues of polarity here. Strength isn't necessarily in action. Sometimes strength is found in not acting and simply having the strength, to allow something to happen, to allow something to unfold in its natural way. And here you see with the chariot, he's at rest. He's not moving, is he? He's basically in his own 4th position, the 4th ray. He acts as the 4th ray, or the center point of the scales, the center point of balance, where you have the 2 and the 6 over here. And then you have the 7 in the center. So this is a day for really healing and extending ourselves to others. Maybe to extending ourselves to the process, allowing a process to continue. There's movement in Congress in terms of the House. I guess the Republicans didn't voted in unison against it, against to establish the rules of the impeachment process. So while they, I mean, in a sense, by choosing to vote no, I mean they chose to act versus to allow. It would have been better if they simply would have allowed the process and voted for it. It doesn't necessarily mean you're going to vote for impeachment. It just means you allow the process, and that's really, what we're dealing with here today. But when we bring Vunyo into the mix, we have an 8 energy as the 8th rune of the Elder Futhark. This is about fellowship and joy and harmony with others. But it's, again, from a soul level. With the 8, you're talking even a higher level of soul involvement here, more so even than the 6. With the 8, it's a type of leadership that is more soul-based. And so you have the ability with the 8 to see the bigger picture and to act from that standpoint, maybe even acting against your own personal self-interest, but you have that awareness that sometimes the greater good is what matters. And so coming together in joy and harmony and fellowship with others is part of the greater good. And so healing the division, both within and without, with the 2, coming into alignment so that we can then, balancing that with shared purpose and shared abundance with others, coming together in joy and fellowship. It feels intentional. And now you see why I didn't want to redo the reading, because I think that this is powerful. If you've ever listened to Eckhart Tolle, I've talked about him before on this. He talks a lot about allowing and moving through life in non-resistance. We're each here to explore creation for ourselves. There is a collective consciousness aspect of it in that we create all of it together as source energy. We each play our own different roles in the different expressions we take to gather back information to experience all of life in intangible form. And it just increases the knowledge of the Akashic record, the unified consciousness that we all share. But when we do that at times we don't remember that we're part of that whole, collective soul experience, the collective consciousness, the unified consciousness field that's part of source energy. We see ourselves as separate. It's tempting because we're in these separate bodies, we have our own opinions, we have our own way of doing things, but in truth, it's just a physical expression. It's just how we're choosing to manifest. And it's all a choice. We can choose something else, right? Hard to do sometimes, but we can. Even though I think that we come in with a whole, soul expression. We know what we're going to do. We've come into it with our soul group. We have people that we already know are going to play our parents, our brothers and sisters, our friends, our coworkers, significant people in our lives, even insignificant people in our lives that might one given day cross our paths and change everything. So the role you play in someone else's life, maybe as someone's victim, perhaps. Maybe you're doing it not so much for yourself, but to allow that person to understand what it is to victimize someone else. So when you think of that from that standpoint, from before you incarnate, you see that the experiences are likely engaged in with and taken up in joy and in fellowship with others, in the Vunyo aspect of self. Once we get here and we don't remember that when we see other people, we're really seeing the other side of self, right? We're not seeing an enemy. We're not seeing someone really any different than we are. Maybe a little different presentation, but that was a choice that was made. And if we're involved in their lives, we likely participated in that decision. So people that we find challenging, that we don't like, well, I bet we do. So I think that if you start to think about things that way, you really start to realize that when you see somebody that's challenging, you're seeing an aspect of yourself that could be challenging. And maybe it is an aspect of yourself that you find challenging. And you're seeing it being played out in that other person. And that's why it can be so difficult. And so that's why we draw back and we go, ooh, no, not that. Ooh. And when in reality, maybe it is something that we struggle with, maybe really privately, but there could be a little aspect there that you're going, oh, that's interesting. That seems familiar. I don't like that. So either you've experienced it in another lifetime, if you will, and by the way, they happen all at once. You know, the whole issue of past, present, and future is an illusion. All right. That's all it is. It's an illusion. Think of experience being just one big onion, and you got all these layers, right? Dimensions are like that. Density is like that. But anyway, back to Eckhart Tolle. If you ever listen to him, he really drives home the idea that allowing is far better than anything else you can do. Because even though we have this interactive experience with one another, we still have to understand each other's sovereignty within that. Sovereignty of experience. And we all have the right to experience our lives the way we do. So I don't know, it makes sense if you're going to constantly rise to the occasion, then maybe that's ego-based. Maybe that's not soul-based. Maybe stepping out of the way or stepping aside, as I put it on my blog, maybe stepping aside all of that is what we really need to do and get into a pattern of allowing and harmony and healing with one another. Because as we go forward with what's happening in our government right now, unfortunately, we all gripe about the government, right? But whatever's happening there now has so profoundly affected our relationships with one another that it's stressed us out in ways that really wasn't necessary. It's created enemies where once there were friends. It's created enemies where once there was family. So something has happened here, and a healing needs to take place. And so, since obviously he's up to no good there and he's doing things that a president cannot do, we have to go through this process now to see if it's bad enough that we need to impeach this man. And likely the vice president as well, because he's just as involved. Now, that's going to cause conflict between people. It's going to, for those people that are firmly entrenched in their own belief structure, it's going to further entrench them. So at least that will be the natural response given where we are right now. So what I suggest then, and what I think this reading suggests, and hopefully my 4 geomancy runes will suggest, is that we have to intentionally drop resistance here and simply observe the process as it unfolds. Just allow it. Look, allow truth to emerge, irrespective of what that is. If it ends up being in your favor and you're supporting this guy, well, okay. I doubt that's going to happen, but it could. We could find at the end of this process it was all a big mistake, right? And that none of this stuff really happened. I doubt it, at least based on what we've heard so far. I doubt it. But if we don't allow that process to go forward, how are we going to know what the true picture of this is? Maybe it's just stupid stuff and it's not impeachable, right? Maybe he's just not very good at this job, which is clear he isn't. And so you throw him out the next time and elect someone else. But maybe it's not impeachable, right? We're not going to know that if we don't allow the truth to come out. And if the other side that supports him is trying to stifle that, then you have to use that to inform you about what's really going on, don't you? Why, if it's nothing to see here, why don't you want to just, sunlight's the best disinfectant, folks, just let it all come out. If there's no there, then there's no there. There's no impeachment. It's simple. In other words, drop resistance. Allow the process to simply unfold. It's going to be all up in public here. As of today, it's all going to go public. Public hearings are going to start. They're all going to come back and do it all over again in front of us. So allow the process to unfold. If you're struggling against something in your life, drop resistance. Maybe, just maybe, your perception's wrong. If you've got a, say you have a problem with a friend, drop resistance. Let it all go. come back together and try to find your way together again. Just drop resistance. Allow it all to dissipate. Allow whatever pain you feel, allow whatever, you know, concerns you have, just let them go for just a moment. And then see if you can get it to rise up again. Here's the funny thing about that. Once you drop that resistance, it's kind of hard to get it back, unless it's something truly real. Then you can get it back. But if you can't, if you got to work at it, it's going to tell you something. That maybe where you are is a function of perception and not truth. So let's see what we have here today. We have, okay, oh, well, that's interesting. Is that Tristitia? It's Laetitia. Cool. Laetitia and Tristitia are each other's complements. I'll draw this out for you. Tristitia is sorrow. Laetitia is joy. And this is what we have today. We have an active presence for fire and passive presences for everything else, air, water, and earth. So we're going to go with the flow there in terms of intellect, emotion, and practical issues. And we're just going to intentionally be in joy and creativity. All right? Aligning well with Vunyo on this Samhain day, on this I can't just say All Hallows Eve. Wasn't that actually last night? Isn't All Hallows Eve the night before, or is Halloween considered the night before the first, which is new? Anyway, I get them all mixed up. I really do. You try to keep two concepts in mind, the pagan and witch, and then the regular, and it's like, okay, which is which? I don't even know. It doesn't matter, really. I mean, does it? It doesn't really matter. It's all an illusion. Anyway, I think that, again, the chariot is the focal point of the reading. And I think in order to, when you achieve allowing, I mean, if you ever have a chance just to go online and listen to a video, a talk of Eckhart Tolle, do it. He really drives home the notion of non-resistance. And you can just see how it's informed and enhanced his life in such a, I don't know, I mean, it's just based on truth. I think that he has his background somewhat in Course in Miracles, and so do I, for that matter. I think when you understand that you are source presence, you are, all that is, and that you give everything the meaning it has, then you can start to then critically take a critical look at the reactions you have and how you see the world. Can you see it another way? The idea of dropping resistance and then trying to bring it back. If it comes back, then there's really a problem. If it doesn't, if you have to work into it, maybe it's not really the truth. And so again, we stand firm in things maybe that we should just let go. And so we hold this level of resistance in our life to any kind of change, any kind of healing. And I think that what this reading is telling us, that we need to stop doing that. That we just need to find our still point, find our resting point that the chariot is suggesting, decide when to take control, when is it worth it to insert ourselves, really? When are we going to, because we should only be doing it when we can have a truly good outcome here, all right? If we can really affect a change that's necessary. Otherwise, I think that we just let people be and let them be who they are, and just appreciate them as the other side of self for the message they bring into our lives. I mean, that's kind of lofty, it's kind of soul-based thinking, but I think that we're moving in that direction, as our souls start to ascend into lighter densities of experience. That's just an ever-unfolding process. We've been, suppressed for so long, and now we're ready. That whole tipping point has been reached, and so, we will start to see things differently now, and we will start to experience the other side of self in people versus the enemy or the other. So again, whether this is something that's just simply happening in your personal life, you have a chance at joy and harmony and fellowship today. You have a chance for healing. If you've been struggling within, you have a chance to heal that as well, that struggle. Bring yourself to a place of non-resistance. Bring yourself to a place of allowing, and allow healing and shared purpose and shared abundance to take place. Allow the remembrance of the true self to take hold. And embrace the Vunya and Laetisha in your life. The joy and fellowship and abundance and true purpose that our soul brings when it incarnates into form. So I guess that's it. I'm going to go right and put that astrological and correspondences post up. I'm going to do that, and then I'm just going to work on my spell I'm going to write, and then I'm going to get ready for doing all of that this evening. And my pumpkin is lit that my husband carved. So anyhow, have a wonderful day. Have a wonderful evening. I won't see you until Monday. So I guess have a great weekend as well. Be good to yourself. Be good to one another. Thank you so much for coming by, and blessings today. Blessed and blessed be.